guys. Welcome back to the Cinnamon Effect. So kind of a funny thing happened. Well, not funny, but my guest that was supposed to be with me today had an emergency. So I was like, well, I can just go home, I guess, or I can record something solo. So today I'm totally going off the cuff. And I have my producer here in the studio, McKay.
Hello.
He's with me today. And so we're just going to be spontaneous. And I guess what I was thinking, so my guest was, and I won't give away who she is because I believe we'll have her on again. But we were talking about alcohol. So I kind of wanted to dive in and talk about my journey to being alcohol free. And it's something that is really important for me to share because it's literally one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And so I kind of want to just dive in. I don't know. And McKay, you might ask me some questions or, we're just going to roll with this.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So I'll just kind of start into, like evaluating like how I started drinking originally, which, unfortunately was when I was like a teenager and, going to parties when I was in high school. And I don't think I was like a big, I was definitely not like a big partier, but I definitely went to parties. And I guess at that time, like I'm probably dating myself, but it was like a keg party thing. Like going to a keg party. And McKay, you're much younger than me.
Yeah, actually for my brother's baby shower, they did a Prager Kager.
Oh, really? Yeah. So keg parties are still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe, that was just something in the like
we did
90s.
One of my nephew's first birthday party as well. Kegs are still alive and well.
Kegs are still alive and well. Okay. Well, I guess maybe cool for that. But so yeah, we would like go to keg parties. I would have, like a solo cup of beer or whatever. And it never really like sat well with me, but I think that alcohol tends to be just something that we just do. We just partake in. We don't really think about it. I went on for years, probably drinking, not drinking, kind of, in high school, trying it, not trying it. I remember when I turned 21, I actually wasn't really drinking at that time. And so I remember somebody brought like Jell-O shots to my party. I did have a 21st birthday party and somebody brought like Jell-O shots to the party. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, like I'll have one, but I wasn't like obsessed with drinking or like really that into it, to be honest. So kind of celebrated the 21st birthday. Then for years, I think, even in college, I would go out, I would sometimes drink. I wouldn't ever really drink as much as my friends seemed to drink. I kind of like, I feel like I was the one that was like, just a little like less than,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if I did really decide to like party it up, I was the one that was sick. I was like, it was just terrible. Like I felt like it was never in check for me.
So you couldn't really control having like one or two. It was kind of all or nothing.
All or nothing. And when I say all, I mean like I was like dancing on tables. I mean, I am a dancer, but I would be like at life of the party, like I guess, and also I feel like I'm dating myself because I feel like I don't really see people get up on the bar anymore and like dance when you go out. But we used to do that.
I'm too self-conscious for that.
Okay. So I guess, I'd throw my inhibitions to the wind and I would like be up on the bar, like partying and having a great time. Kim was life of the party. And actually people at different points of my life called me Tequila Kim because when I would drink tequila, I would just go crazy. So I guess flash forward. So there were different parts of my life where I would go like, a long period of time not drinking.
Maybe. Was it a conscious effort?
I think in my 20s, I was working a lot of jobs. So I was actually working as a waitress for a long time, but also having like, I taught dance and like I did other things.
So you didn't really have time to party. You were just working.
I was working in college. I was, going to college, but I also had like 2 jobs. I've always been that person. Like I had like 2 jobs.
I've had 3 at one point.
You've had 3.
Actually 4, because I did freelance on the side of other jobs I was working.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't have time to drink when you're doing that.
No, like you're like working a ton, you're sleeping, that's it. So I can empathize with that because I don't know that I've had 4, maybe I think I've had 3. Yeah. Waiting tables. Cause I feel like you could always do that with something. If you're local here, what is now, I think, Financial Amphitheater used to be Coral Sky Amphitheater.
And wasn't it like vodka something? Perfect Vodka. They changed the name of it so many times.
They did. They changed the name a ton of times. So I worked there, which was also fun. I rented the lawn chairs to the people on the lawn, which was super fun because I got to literally, we would sell out of lawn chairs and then we'd get to go enjoy the show. So I've seen
so you got plenty of free concerts.
Oh, I've seen a lot of concerts and I am still a concert girl. Like that is my favorite thing to do. So
really quick, because I'm a concert girl too.
Yeah. Okay.
Top 3 you've seen live.
Oh, well, that's easy. I love that all my podcasts somehow circle back to John Mayer. This. You have not even recorded that many shows with me. And you already know.
This is my 2nd or 3rd with you.
Yeah. And you already know my connection to John Mayer. John Mayer, if you're listening,
come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast. Yeah. Like I was even thinking about this. We need to really like petition him to come on the podcast. Also, he doesn't drink either.
Okay.
So maybe we'll get into that later, but I do know that about him because he's been like very vocal about his journey. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen like every concert under the sun. Okay. So my top 3 live, I have seen, well, John Mayer, maybe all of his shows, rank up there for me.
Top 3 artists. Okay.
I saw the Eagles farewell tour when they were it was like their last tour all together. That was like a really special one. So I really loved that. Another artist I've seen, gosh, I know I'm going to leave somebody out. Well, I just saw my first Dead & Company shows over the summer, and that was just like an incredible experience. But I will say I've seen Sting a couple times. Sting. Okay. And Sting's pretty amazing. But there's still others that like I'm hoping to see Stevie Nicks in February. Yeah, I don't know. What about you? Top 3? Top 3.
So what kind of genre is more yours, you'd say? Because mine might be a little different genre-wise.
That's okay. I mean, I like everything. I like classic rock, but I like some pop stuff.
I'm more of like into the metal scene and all that. Okay. Top 3. One of them, surprisingly, let me know if you know, Papa Roach. You ever listen to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them live at Sunfest, and like I've always listened to them a lot. They haven't been one of my favorite bands, but a band I enjoy. And when I saw them live, I was like, they were just so tight. Like everything.
Cool. Yeah.
They were really good. Like you could tell their live rehearsals were really good. Breaking Benjamin was really fun. I like that they don't use the pyro backing tracks. So it's all live, every sound they're making. And Deftones was one on my bucket list for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So because that was a fun experience because I flew up to Georgia. I saw them with my cousin.
Cool.
So that was a fun one.
I always think like it is too. It's like who you're with. It's the venue you're at. Yeah. Like it's a full scale experience.
So drinking at concerts.
Oh, drinking at concerts. So I've definitely, like I said, I've done my fair share of drinking at concerts too. But it's funny because now I don't drink and I've gone to more concerts probably this year than I have, except for when I like worked at Coral Sky. So, and I attended all of those not drinking anything. Mm. So,
normally you figure those two go hand in hand.
Yeah. But it's so cool to be fully present and really in it, and I got to, you guys already know, if you've listened to the podcast, I got to be in the front row for John Mayer, recently. Cool. And I did feel like, I was just like right there in it, super, super present, super in tune with what was going on. So yeah, so kind of that was like my, my thing in my 20s. But I do remember, waiting tables, and it's very easy, like when you wait tables to drink, after work, you're having the after shift drink.
Yeah. A lot of people in the restaurant industry just drink.
Yes. Yes. And it's kind of like, you don't even think about it. So that's what I mean about not really evaluating, not really thinking I was doing anything wrong at the time or whatever. I just not really even thinking like not drinking, going forward was an option. But then yet, I would take these like breaks. So it was just very like roller coaster-ish, I guess. And then I would say in my 30s, did a lot of like traveling, going to a lot of different like wineries and doing that type of travel, going to Napa, like really amazing, wonderful experiences. And that's one thing that I want to say is like, even though I decided not to drink now, it doesn't mean that I don't regret all of those amazing experiences that were involving alcohol, right? Like I love visiting wineries and doing that type of thing. So it's funny because I haven't done it in the last couple of years, but I don't know that I won't do it in the future, and what does that look like for me? I don't know yet, So I'll kind of just tell you like leading up. So in my 30s, so I had my son at 36. I, of course, like did not drink while I was pregnant. I was very sick. So like alcohol was not like, I know some pregnant women have like a glass here or whatnot. That was never like something that I did, but I then had him and was like nursing and stuff. McKay, this is, you're not in that phase of life yet, but you did say you have nephews, right?
Yes. Third niece/nephews on the way. So this will be my second niece and I have one niece and nephew already.
Okay. So you're kind of around the babies, you know? Yeah. So I think, I did drink like after I had my son and it definitely being a mom, like kicks everything up a notch, So I felt like, my hormones had changed. I felt like my body had changed. I felt like I couldn't really tolerate alcohol like I did before. It was kind of the hangovers were like super intense because you're not getting that much sleep and, it just was like, did not feel great. But then, I continued to do it. I continued to drink. So, and I will say like, I didn't feel like I was out of balance with it or I was drinking too much, but it was definitely.
It never felt like an addiction.
No, never felt like an addiction. I was definitely like a social drinker. So I like to like go out or go to dinner or like be with friends or go to a party. And that's when I would drink. Right. Like, what about you? Do you feel like, do you drink? I don't even know.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you do.
I do. Like my girlfriend and I went to St. Augustine for my birthday. So it was just like crawling all the pubs and bars around there.
Yeah.
And, my brother had a keg at his, baby shower.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
Now, my family's definitely drinkers, Cuban, Italian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So lot of wine, a lot of beer. Yeah,
that makes sense. And it's like cultural, too. I understand that.
Like totally even when I was in high school, like it's common in Italy to have a glass of wine with dinner. So my parents would let me do that.
Like when did you start doing that?
Probably around the time I was 17.
Okay. Yeah. And so do you feel like because you did that, you have like, I don't want to
like control over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I do. Cause, I can go a while without drinking and not even notice it. But then sometimes I'll be like, I want to have a beer. And if we don't have any in the house, like I'm not really that motivated to go to the store and get some.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, definitely more of my like late teens and early 20s. Yeah. I was down to drink whenever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like the time I hit 24, it was just, I didn't care about getting drunk as much.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
I guess party phase, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. 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 I get that. So I would drink. And then, like I said, the hangovers kind of became like a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
It's just.
Because the hangovers take time away from you too.
Yeah.
Like your whole next day becomes so much less productive.
Totally. And I always felt that way. I wanted to, eat bad food. I didn't want to work out, which I'm pretty health conscious and, I like to exercise.
I do too. I've forced myself hungover to work out. It's not the most enjoyable experience.
Sometimes it makes you feel better after.
Oh, it makes you feel better after because you sweat a little bit of it out.
Yeah. Sweat it out and, so, it's important to mention too, for me, that after I had my son, I moved to Utah. And I know I've talked about this before. And so I was living in a new place. I was living in Park City and I was trying to make friends, and I didn't know a soul there. And, so I feel like every social scenario I was in, I felt like I needed to drink, and that really, I would say if I ever had to pinpoint maybe a time in my life where I was drinking more than normal, it was maybe during that time, because I think trying to fit in, trying to meet new people, also like in wintertime, you're skiing and stuff, but then there's like après ski. So then you're like hanging out after, and then it gets dark at like 5 p.m. So typically you're just going to someone's house, having dinner, going out to dinner and like drinking. And that's really, I felt like what the evenings kind of consisted of, it's really cold. So you are kind of like trapped inside and, that's what you're doing. So I really started to think about it. I think then, I really started to look at this and think, I don't know if this is the greatest thing for me. And like I said, hangovers became worse. I had, let's say like a 2-year-old at that time or whatnot, and they're just very active. And so, like laying on the couch for a full day is not really an option, So, but I think when so then I would start to play like this moderation game basically. And I would say, okay, Kimberly, we're not going to drink all week. We're not going to drink Monday through Friday, but you can drink one night a week. Saturday or Sunday or whatever, Friday night or whatever it is. So drink once and then kind of do it all over again. Well, that one time a week, I'd feel like, oh, I was so good all week. I didn't drink anything. I'm going to go out and I'm going to drink too much because, I felt like, I've been, like restricting. And then I'm going to go out and like binge drink. Right.
Yeah.
So that kind of became what I would do. And, that Sunday morning or whatever ended up just being, I just would feel terrible. So
the vomiting when you're hungover is the worst.
Yeah.
It's always the worst.
I'm not a big, I don't vomit a lot with that. If I do, I'm crying. Every time I've ever thrown up in my life, I cry.
Yeah, I hate it.
Being pregnant, I threw up every day for like 6 months and I cried every single time. It's like, it makes me so emotional.
I hate vomiting.
I don't like to vomit. I'm with you. I don't like some of my friends they could just throw up and, they feel so much better. And like,
you feel better after, but actually having to vomit sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. And it's emotional. Like I just felt sad. I did not like it. So thankfully I didn't really vomit too much when it came to like drinking, but, so around that time, I ended up like having some kind of like health issues and stuff like that. I was having like rashes. I had gained some weight. I was experiencing some things that I'd never really experienced before. And so that's when I started to think like, okay, I think I'm going to like not drink. And I would go 30 days or I'd go 60 days or 90 days. It always felt kind of easy to do that, to like eliminate it. But then I would say, oh, I've been so good for 90 days. I can have a drink now. And then it just kind of like started this whole thing again, where I would just go out one day a week, but then I would like overdo it and, that kind of thing.
So what was the difference between drinking versus being sober? Was there like one main thing?
I think not drinking, I always felt better. I was sleeping better. Within a couple weeks, you start to sleep really good.
Yeah.
Your skin looks better. You're like more hydrated. There's a lot of like pluses to that. And so I think what ended up happening was, the biggest difference is just like you start to feel better, And I think in the beginning, and I'll kind of like walk you through like how this all came about for me, but I definitely, whenever I would go in these like lulls, because I was more of like a social drinker, I wouldn't go out as much. I wouldn't, not because I didn't think I could be around people and drink. I just felt like, oh, well, I'm just kind of like, I'm enjoying this kind of downtime. It felt like nice, like downtime of like doing like more self-care and like taking baths and like just doing stuff for me and not really having to like, get dressed and put on makeup and go out and like be social and, all of that. So I think it is definitely in the beginning for me. It's always like a less social phase whenever I would say, oh, okay, I'm going to go 30 days or whatever without drinking. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I was kind of having like these health issues and whatnot. And during that time, again, I would go, a couple months or whatever, not drink. During that time, I kind of made the decision to move back down to Florida because we were in Utah and we decided to come back down to Florida. And when I got here, it was like August of 2021 when I got back. And I grew up here and I did feel like this just comfort level of being home. And we had this really great experience in Utah and it was a ton of fun and we made a bunch of friends, but like it felt nice to come home, I think. And for me at that point, I felt like I needed that, So we came back in August of 2021 and I was not really drinking a whole lot at that point at all. I was kind of like, no, I'm like adjusting to my life here.
When you weren't drinking, did you try to substitute it with anything?
Oh, good question. Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what. So two things. And that is something, because I've read books, on this, and you do tend to supplement, one thing for another. And so for me, it was definitely sugar. I thought not having that glass of wine tonight, so I can have.
That turns into sugar once it processes through your liver.
Yes.
So maybe you're having a craving.
Totally. And it is totally like a blood sugar thing. So sugar, and I would say shopping.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I lost some weight. There was something that like went along with that too, which I'll explain, but I lost some weight. So then I was like, oh, like I can go online shopping and like, get some, and it feels like a reward too. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing something good for myself. Like I can reward myself with this. So absolutely. So I had also made an appointment with a functional medicine doctor, and because I was having, some of these like health things and brain fog, and I was experiencing kind of just some weird things that I had not really had before, but I was approaching 40. So I felt like, okay, maybe this is, just me turning 40 and like these things are going to happen. Right. So I ended up having my appointment with her, and, like I made an appointment to do a bunch of blood work and stuff. But before that, she was like, you really need to eliminate sugar, gluten, dairy, soy, like all of these foods, because they were kind of see, did I have any food sensitivities? Like, was I reacting to something I was eating? Like what was going on with me? So of course, alcohol was included in that. And I was not really drinking, like I said, when I had moved back, but I had the appointment with her. I want to say it was like on the 23rd of December of 2021. And Christmas, I was like, I'm going to stop drinking like for good, or not for good, but I knew it was going to be like a period of time. So I had 3 glasses of wine on Christmas. And when I tell you, I woke up the day after Christmas and I was like, I feel terrible. And some people, 3 glasses of wine doesn't even faze them. For me, it just felt like, I just felt like shit, And I said, that's it. I'm not doing this again. I'm also on this like health journey. I'm with this doctor. I'm doing, 50 vials of blood she's taking from me to see what's going on. Like I'm stopping this. And so really the goal was kind of only to stop for 90 days again on this like 90-day cycle, and I did the 90 days and I got my blood work back, and it turned out I had some issues. I had some things that I needed to really focus on. And, I think in that first 90 days, I saw a therapist. I was actually like some emotional weight I was carrying around from like a miscarriage I had. Like there were like some things going on. So I ended up dropping like 25 pounds in 90 days.
Wow.
It was crazy.
From not drinking.
Well, from not drinking, but also I had eliminated a lot of food and stuff too. So can you say it's really from, not drinking? I don't know. But I definitely think it had an important role in it,
Yeah, and you probably weren't eating as much processed food.
Yes, not as much processed food. I was definitely having, fresh fruits and vegetables and like eating more protein and stuff like that, which, I've now learned more about like when you stop drinking, like how to support. And actually my guest, she wrote a book and so we're going to talk about that eventually, but just about how you can support your health, during that phase. And so I did eliminate all those things. And eliminated the alcohol, was definitely not as social, I think, for a period of time. It was kind of just like...
Because they were afraid of falling back into...
I wasn't really afraid. I can't say I was afraid. I felt like I felt like the best I'd felt in years. And so I just felt like I'm going to just use this time to take care of myself.
Okay.
And so I didn't feel like I couldn't be around anybody, or it wasn't like, because
that was just kind of your reaction.
It was kind of my reaction just to be like more homebody and just, settle into, I just moved back, to Florida. And I thought, I'm just going to devote some time to like being with my family and just kind of taking care of myself. So, and I will say, I think the journey is different for people that maybe have like an alcohol use disorder or feel like they are an alcoholic or something like that. I never felt that for myself. I just felt like I didn't have a handle on drinking, and I never felt great. Like I never felt great, like after I would do it, like, yeah, so happy I drank last night. Like I just never really felt that way. It was always like, oh, I drank too much and, I don't feel good, And so, so 90 days goes by, and then I just thought like, I don't really have the desire to drink. Like, let's just keep this kind of going. Then I remember hanging out, and we had like a really nice bottle of wine from the times that we used to go to Napa. And my husband opened it, and he had actually, I commend him because he did not have to quit drinking. And he was like, you're doing all this stuff with like, obviously like whatever I had food wise, I had eliminated sugar and dairy and gluten and, all these things. And he kind of did that too with me, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And he also did not drink as well. And so he started feeling great as well. Like, yeah, this is awesome. But I would say maybe, 4 or 5 months into it, he opens this really nice bottle of wine that like we've been to the vineyard and like the whole thing, so it kind of felt like an emotional thing. Like, oh, we enjoyed this place together and we picked this wine out, whatever. Yeah. And we had some friends over, and I drank. It was like, I drank like I normally would drink. It wasn't like you were like, oh, just have one glass and then return to not drinking. Well, I felt like, well, jumping back on the horse and like, like drinking and having fun. And I won't say that I really felt like extra terrible or anything like that after I did that. I did still have like the guilt of like, I said I wasn't going to drink and now here I drank. Right. Yeah. But I never really declared, that I was sober or anything like that. I just was kind of like, I'm not drinking alcohol, and that was it, So I had that. And I think I probably over the course of that first year, I remember that evening. And then I also remember like one other time having a glass of champagne, and we were celebrating something. And now I can't even remember what we were celebrating, but I had a glass of champagne at dinner, and, but I only had one. And I thought, I really feel best if I only have one, but one doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you want to chase a buzz.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because, I used to like to have a buzz, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. So when I had one, I thought, this doesn't really cut it. So what's the point of even doing it? Is really like the realization I came to was like, well, who cares about this now? And it took away like all of this like emotion tied to it. And then I realized, like I had gone to, let's say we're coming to the end of, the year, whatever, and we're into 2022 and, go to a party or whatever. I'm in more social situations where there's alcohol and everything.
Usually all of them are tied to it.
It's everything. And everyone's drinking. And I don't fault, I don't judge. I don't really care what anyone else does. And I think some people might find that hard to believe. I really don't care. I just know what feels the best to me and what I'm going to do, like to support myself and to support my health. And for me, it feels like not drinking is the best option. So and then I realized all I really wanted was like to have a drink in my hand. Doesn't matter if it's sparkling water or whatever. And most of the time it looks like a cocktail. So if I'm at a party, I have like sparkling water with like a lime or maybe a piece of mint. Soda. Boom, and it's fine. And people, maybe some people think I'm drinking. Other people know I'm not. And guess what? Nobody even cares.
Now, you'd be surprised how much people really don't care.
They don't. I think they don't care. They don't care what you're doing.
Yeah, they really don't.
They're thinking more about themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, they want the next drink, or they are feeling good, or they've got a buzz or whatever. And they don't really care what you're doing. So why care what they're doing? Like you do you, I'm going to do me. Right. So, I think, but I do think like the real like tests for me were like going on like a girls trip or going on a vacation, going to the Bahamas, which is somewhere like we would always go, and, it's like rum punch and pina coladas and all that stuff, and really just not even caring. It's very freeing. I think it's like super freeing feeling where you're like, I'm not really concerned about going to the next bar. I'll go because I'm with friends and I'm with you, but it's like, it doesn't matter. And I'm enjoying the conversation and I'm having fun. And guess what? I'd probably still get up on that bar and dance if I wanted to, I just feel like, I think people think if they don't have a drink, they're going to feel boring, or they're not going to be as much fun, or people are going to think that they're not fun. And I'm not going to lie, I definitely thought, well, Tequila Kim isn't coming out. Are people still going to like think I'm a good time? And why did I really care? I mean, do you think about being a good time when you're out? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I guess I feel I am very social. So I thought like, it's always one of those things, like you all agree to drink and you all kind of do it. And it's more fun that way. But I think I'm just as much fun. I'm just as, social, probably more social, because at the end of the night, I'm not like exhausted, or I feel like drinking always made me tired, like it would take me to a certain point and then, excuse me.
I definitely get more social when I drink.
Yeah.
I'm a lot less afraid to talk to people.
I can see that. You seem kind of maybe a little shy.
No, I am. I definitely am.
Okay.
So drinking helps me be able to like break the ice with someone.
Yeah.
Because the liquid courage.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think in my earlier 20s, I felt that way too. I was kind of shy as well, which is funny that I'm like doing this because I'm more out of my shell now than I've ever been.
Yeah. Same with me.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good. But yeah, being shy, I get that. 'Cause you're like, ooh, I need this too.
Yeah. 'Cause it makes you less self-conscious.
Yeah.
If you have a little buzz going.
Yeah.
But then you got to realize, well, if they didn't give a shit when I was buzzed, why would they care when I'm sober?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's a very false sense of what I found for me was that it's like a very false sense of making me something better than I am. And maybe that's like, that's like deep in the heart there. Like you have to evaluate and think that substance is not making me better than who I am without it. Like I feel like authentic and true to who I am. And now it's like, it seems like such a distant memory to have relied on that maybe, at different parts of my life. Mm-hmm. Like I don't need to do that anymore. And so it feels really good. So the day after Christmas 2021, and we're coming up on Christmas 2023, and I'm pretty much, haven't used the word sober, but I like to call myself alcohol free because, I think I am taking it. I don't know how many days sober I am or, how many days alcohol free I am. Cause I said, I did have a couple of instances where I thought I could maybe do it in moderation. And then I just realized like it wasn't my thing. I didn't need it anymore, I guess. So, and so I've kind of like made that decision to like not count it and also not say, I always think ahead of like, when my son gets married, am I going to have a glass of wine at his wedding? Or are we going to have a Pregger kegger?
You never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? So I think for me, it's also like a lot of freedom in not having to define that either. Yeah. And, my husband definitely tapered off like his alcohol intake. He still drinks occasionally, but it's so much less than what it was. So, it's funny to watch him too, because I'm like very proud of him, but I also feel like that's his journey. And if he wants to or doesn't want to, like, that's okay too. Yeah. So yeah, I just feel like, pretty non-emotional about the whole thing, but where the emotion comes from, like there is some emotion there because the emotion for me comes from me making a choice and saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. Trusting myself that I was going to kind of stick with that, and I would say if at least, stuck with it for at least probably like, I don't know, I guess like the last year, like probably zero. Right. So I just feel good, like choosing myself and.
So the guilt really came from you. You didn't feel like you felt like you were going back on your word more or less.
Sometimes I think when I would say, I'm not going to drink tonight, or I'm going to have one drink and I would have 3 or whatever, then I would feel really guilty the next day. Mm-hmm. That's where the guilt would come. It just was like, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I also, it doesn't feel great to like feel hungover. So I'd feel really guilty.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
No, like that I had done something like wrong, like a rule follower. And even with myself, I'm a rule follower. Like if I put a rule in place for myself, I want to follow it. Yeah. I want to like stay true to that, So, being alcohol free doesn't like define me, doesn't define who I am, but it is a big part of how I've gotten to this point, I think. And I think not drinking, first of all, kind of like freed up some time.
The freeing up of the hangover time is probably the bigger thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Freeing up the hangover time. But I will say, like, when you're not so focused on, well, I'm going to go out. Oh, before dinner, we're going to like meet for drinks. And then we're going to like go to dinner. Like it just seems there's just less time devoted to that. And there's more time to devote to other things, So, it really did like free up time for me. And I feel like it gave me kind of having more time, having full like control over my thoughts and feeling fully present more just helped me kind of pursue some things that I wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
Like this podcast being one. I don't know that I would have done it if I was drinking. And I know that sounds like weird, but I think it just gave me, again, it just like my thoughts started to run wild of like things that I could do and like things I could put my energy into. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't putting my energy into drinking anymore. And so, yeah, it was kind of, it's been just like an amazing choice that I've made. And I do think I'm seeing more and more people make that choice to be alcohol free. And it's definitely like, I don't know if you've noticed like on social media, and maybe it is for me because I follow some accounts that are, you know, talking about sobriety and being alcohol free. And I'm following accounts where they're making like cool mocktails and stuff like that, you know? So it seems to me like more people are jumping into doing that. I don't know. Do you see that as someone?
I'm not kind of super big on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, I stay
good for you
as much as I can because those search algorithms are just meant to keep you hooked.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and that's another thing. So that's another thing when you stop, you know, say you stop drinking or say, you know, then do you spend more time on social media or, you know, there's always some kind of like vice.
Something else your attention's going to go to.
Totally agree. So I think that's why it's like free up that time, free up that space in your mind and like create something positive that you can throw yourself into. Because it is really easy. Like I said, like I was like, oh, well, I can eat dessert. And, you know, so I did lose weight like after I stopped drinking, but then I started to see where, oh, okay, I was eating like chocolate cake when we go out to dinner because I wasn't drinking wine. I was like, you know, doing that. So definitely finding something positive to kind of, you know, take a class or like, you know, do something instead of going a happy hour, like, you know, maybe learn something new or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's
pick up a new skill or hobby or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or go exercise or like take a walk. Like that was always a good piece of advice. And I didn't really seek like any other kind of support other than I was following some accounts, you know, and it would be like, oh, well, they're making this mocktail or this, you know, this is what they're doing when they're going out. And I would kind of do the same thing. And it really wasn't like a big deal, you know, but I fully understand that for some people, it's obviously there is a disease there, an addiction, you know, and that it is like a harder transition to make. And I feel super thankful that for me, it just felt like this thing is no longer serving me and I'm just going to like literally, I'm just going to decide not to do it, you know? So.
I got one funny story though on hangovers.
Yeah.
So on my men's league team, I am very known for coming to the game hungover and playing better when I'm hungover.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know why I hit better when I'm hungover. I don't understand why.
Why do you think this is? Maybe
I think the thing is I'm an overthinker. So I think less.
Yes. It maybe has numbed you out a little bit.
I'm just like, yeah, I'll swing. I don't know. There's something about that too. It quiets your mind, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not inducing. I'm not trying to say show up hungover to everything.
Yeah. But I do think that in the short term, yes, you do feel.
It just comes down to knowing yourself.
Yeah. I think you do think that you are like, it is helping you. And then like for me, the next day I would have like, maybe it was helping relieve some anxiety in the moment.
Yeah.
And then the next day, my anxiety would kick up like, oh, did I say something I shouldn't have said to somebody? Or did I tell a secret? Did I, or like whatever.
And how it affects your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely has a big effect. So I feel like we did this solo episode, McKay.
Yeah. How'd you like this setup here?
I like it. You're on camera. I'm on camera. I'm not even looking at the camera, but, so that was just a little bit of a story about that. Kind of off the cuff and spontaneous, but yeah, I don't know. how do we end it? We just,
and just sign off however you normally do.
Yeah. Like, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to my story. Maybe some of it resonated with you guys. And
if anyone stopped drinking, is there anywhere anyone can reach you out if they got a story similar?
Yeah, absolutely. You could reach out, of course, on Instagram at Kimberly Hand _, a little pesky _. My website is kh@kimberlyhand.com. So yeah, I'm happy to like share stories or, if anybody needs any kind of support, happy to lend that. And I hope to connect with some of you guys.